And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you.
Have a safe and happy 4th of July as we commemorate the birth of our nation. A message from the staff of K98 Talk, the leader in Internet radio. Welcome to Opinion Nation.
And we stand today on the edge of a new frontier.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
What makes us Americans is our shared commitment to an ideal that all of us are created equal.
I, too, am America.
Now here's your host, Bryce Robbins.
All right, hello everybody, and happy 239th birthday to the United States of America. On this day, our Declaration of Independence was, shipped out to King George. But I am joined today by somebody you've probably never heard. That's a joke. Rick Robinson. So, how are you doing, Rick?
I'm doing great, Bryce. How are you?
I'm good. So, today I figured we would obviously base this a lot around America. So, I wanted to start by playing this video from a woman from the Brooklyn, I believe. And it's pretty epically America. So, let's have a listen.
America.
Watch people come out.
Wait, hang on. All right, there you go.
My nephew that I love, Joseph, he's going to be graduating from Paris Island Marines boot camp on the 10th, okay? I'm proud of what my nephew did, and I'll be damned to watch people come out here and burn the symbol of this. It doesn't matter what this country's been through. We all come through it together. We fight. We do like what any other family does, but we come together, and we come together under this flag, and people need to recognize that. God bless America. Thank you.
Ma'am, what was her name?
Diane Atkins. I'm from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and I'm an American. Thank you, Ilana. God bless you.
Diane, did you hear that they posted on Facebook that they burned the flag last night and they're not doing it?
I don't care when they're burned. I don't really care. It's irrelevant because they're irrelevant. As far as I'm concerned, this is what's relevant. People coming together, all colors, all genders, people are coming here, all nationalities, standing here saying we believe in what the United States of America stands for and the flag that people have died to protect it. And they should be ashamed of themselves. God bless America. USA! USA! USA!
Okay, so not only does this woman just totally defend the American flag, which I applaud her for, but then she starts a freaking epic USA chant among all these people. That is awesome. I just wanted to show that. That was just really cool. Maybe that would feel like it would get us in the mood for, some July 4th celebration. So, I also wanted to read a quote from one of my friends who posted this on Facebook, if I could ever find it. And then I kind of want your opinion, Rick.
We don't have time for a doctor's appointment. Thanks to Care Now, we don't need one.
Stupid pop-up ads, I swear. I have a pop-up blocker, and every time I turn around, it's still playing one.
No problem. So I'm just pulling up this quote. All right, so, and I kind of want your opinion on it. The Declaration of Independence was ratified 239 years ago today, indicating the birth of a nation. However, it did not just signal the birth of a nation, but also the birth of a mission for liberty and equality that must still continue today. Among our certain unalienable rights, those of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The statement in the Declaration of Independence is more than just a set of words on parchment. It constitutes a doctrine of rights that we must protect. In our constantly changing world, we must take those principles and apply them to the challenges we face today. We come together today not only to celebrate the birth of a nation, but also to celebrate the conviction that a small group of people dedicated to the principles of progress and equality can change the course of history. So, what do you think about, I guess this whole idea that the Declaration of Independence is this mission for equality? I mean, is that a truthful statement? How do you feel, Rick?
No, I mean, I think it's a fairly truthful statement, but it's interesting that you bring up a Facebook post that you got from somebody, because I actually got a message right before we went on Finding Common Ground, and I meant to read this on the air to get both you and Dave's take on it. But if it's all right with you, I will probably go ahead and read it now, and then we can just kind of compare notes between the two different perspectives. This actually came in from a longtime friend of mine. It was something that she found through a friend of hers, and it's actually timelined and time-stamped from today. Today is July the 4th, the day we celebrate our country's independence and freedom, but really, people, is our country still free or independent? The TPP was just passed, a battle flag that is part of our nation's history has part of our nation's history behind it. Now, she uses the words banned. As we both know, that's not banned. But the flag was banned. Our Constitution, the piece of paper that our country is founded on, is being manipulated and destroyed. Racism and religious persecution is dividing the country into another civil war. Don't forget about all of the ISIS threats that we are currently undergoing. And we're just sitting here when we're doing nothing about it. America, I say it's time, and this is a quote, America, I say it's time to wake the fuck up and realize your country is no longer free or independent, and we need to stand up and fight for our freedom and independence. How much longer, America? How much longer are you just going to sit? And I got to change screenshots now at this point because it was such a long post. 1 second, please.
No problem.
And there we go. America, I say it's time to... we won't read that part again. Is no longer free and independent. We need to stand up and fight for our freedom and independence. How much longer, America? How much longer are you just going to sit, and again quoting, on your fat, obese asses and watch your once great nation crumble all around you? I'm making a stand to defend and try to defend this country, even if I do so by myself. So I will not be celebrating independence today, as I no longer feel that our nation is either free or independent. Please, people, wake up and look around you. Stop being jaded and actually see how far gone our country is. Now, I hope everyone who is celebrating has a good and safe holiday. So that was actually from a listener of mine who sent me that to get my perspective. And while I agree with some of what she said, I don't think I'm quite there yet. So it's interesting looking at the two different perspectives, because you see a lot of folks that are still looking at Independence Day and the hope that it represents and that it represented at the time. And now you've got an entire other segment of the population that, because of all of the crazy 24-hour, 7-day-a-week media news cycle and circus, and the fact that nobody really reports the truth anymore, they only report what sells, we have an entire segment of the population that literally believes this country is no longer free. And sadly, in some ways, I agree with that, and I've been saying that on my weekly radio show now for quite a few, or my daily radio show now on the weekdays for a couple of weeks now, when I realized just how much the TPA and the TPP could affect this country, and how much it could legitimately and completely change things. I realized just how close we are to no longer being free, and I don't know a lot of people that are catching on to that yet. So while I'm not quite where this young lady is, I do understand the angst, and honestly, if I didn't have children that were looking forward to blowing some stuff up today, I might have set this one out too, just in protest. I'm not sure.
No, I agree. I mean, I agree with you, not to what this woman really said. I mean, above all, America remains a nation where you can say what you want, you can be free, and for the most part, you're not going to get prosecuted, killed, or, torn apart for it, drawn and quartered. I do think that our liberty, however, is to a large extent under attack by the TPP. So, I mean, I guess my question would be, this TPP trade deal, right? Is it the fact that it's destroying liberty with their, weird court system that can sue America when there's a company that's profits are being infringed on? What bothers you more? Is it that, or is it the fact that we're gonna ship millions of jobs overseas and make it so that we can never get them back?
Honestly, my problem with the TPP is a threefold situation. The two that you've talked about, which are both very scary things, because basically, for the first time ever, at least in large scale, because nobody wants to talk about it yet, but we have already basically been put under the jurisdiction of a world court. You don't believe me? Look at the changes since NAFTA passed about the way that we do our branding, because we came up with this bright idea about country of origin labeling because everybody was getting sick from the stuff that was coming from Mexico. Well, now Mexico and Canada have sued. And if we don't remedy that, they have been granted permission by a world court to basically put a tariff on us of at least 100% to make sure that we don't get any of our goods shipped there at all. So that, and I didn't know this until the other day. I started digging because I was trying to figure out why it was that all of a sudden Congress and the Senate were all over trying to repeal country of origin labeling. And it really is because North America, basically the two other sides of North America, basically banded together, took us to a world court, and were given authority to impose tariffs if we don't remove our country of origin labeling. So now they're trying to get it removed to make sure that our products can still go there, because they'll still be allowed to go there, but they'll be paying so much more for them that nobody's going to want to buy them. So thanks to NAFTA, the thing that everybody, when it first started being talked about, everybody was like, oh no, don't worry about it, we'll never be put under the jurisdiction of a world court, we're a free nation, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. We were fed a line of crap, because we've technically been under the jurisdiction of a world court for quite some time now, and this new agreement takes that and puts what's already in place completely and totally out of control and on steroids. It not only, the other issue that you had talked about, the biggest concern that I have is that TPP and its transatlantic counterpart is actually what are considered dockable agreements. That means that once there's a board in place and there are members, anybody can submit to join, and all they need is a majority vote to be able to join. So, and I was actually planning on having this little bit available for the other show a minute ago, because we were going to talk about this a little more than we wound up doing. So I wish I had it, because it would be great now. There's actually a clip during an interview that Grouchy from the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show did while we were live at the Southern Republican Leadership Conference with Ambassador John Bolton, and he talks about how TPP started under the Bush administration. And it started because it was the only way they could think of to try to combat the global giant that China was turning into. The problem with all of this being dockable and anybody can get in with a majority vote is eventually China's going to wind up being in there anyway, and they already have more money than pretty much everybody else in the world right now, because they've been quietly building things up behind the scenes while we've been fighting about stupid crap for the last 10 years. So the biggest thing you've got to keep in mind when it comes to world politics is he who has the money makes the rules. So at some point, we are going to get hosed. At this point, is an inevitability. It's a certainty, because we've now handed the president the ability to negotiate. I don't care if you like Obama, hate Obama, and I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, because I know why you Republican nozzles did this, because you're convinced that you're going to get the White House back in 2016, and you want your guy to have the type of power that we just handed this idiot. I don't want any of you to have this type of power. You should not be able to circumvent Congress, and that's happening way too often lately. That's the other thing that concerns, actually, I guess, fourfold problems. But I mean, honestly, the whole TPA, TPP, the TISA, and everything else that's associated with it, they're nightmares, and they never should have been dealt with without them being fully brought into the light of day. If the American people would have been allowed to see everything that was in them and still decided it was okay, then I would have been standing over here screaming, what the hell's the matter with you? But at least I could look at it and say, hey, we got to see what's in it, we made the decision, so now it's on us. The problem is, we're not allowed to do that anymore.
That scares me. How is that allowed? How are we not? This thing is literally kept in a basement, locked up and guarded, and anyone who sees it and says anything about it is subject to possibly 5 years in prison if they leak anything. How the fuck is that allowed?
Well, to be frank, it's this is supposed to be the most transparent administration ever. He said that now in two victory speeches. He left a word out. It's the most transparently corrupt administration ever. I'll give him that one. And I mean, I guess my thing is, and this is again coming from the conservative perspective, what pisses me off is all the way through the 2012 election cycle, we had Paul Ryan. I think that, anyway, last name's Ryan. I'm pretty sure first name's Paul. I'm so pissed off at him, I don't even remember his first name. But anyway, so all the way through the 2012 election cycle, as the VP running mate to Romney, he's going around bashing Nancy Pelosi for a statement that was legitimately taken out of context. Granted, still a scary-ass statement, but it was taken out of context where she was pointing out that we wouldn't actually necessarily know every benefit for Obamacare unless we passed it. So that turned into we got to pass it to find out what's in it. Well, he spent all of the 2012 cycle making fun of her for making that statement, and now that the roles are reversed and he's one of the folks that is all behind the TPP, he says the exact same damn thing. So how was it wrong for her to do it, but now that you're the guy that thinks this is a great idea and the best thing since sliced bread, you're the one saying, America, we gotta pass it to find out what's in it. I know I didn't like it when she said that, but hey, it's pretty cool now, ain't it?
Yeah, no, it's freaking ridiculous, and in all honesty, I detest these politicians who are saying, this is a bill that needs to be passed, who signed over this huge power to the president. They didn't even get to fucking read it. They don't even know what's in it.
No, a lot of them that are for it did get the chance to read it. That's the thing. There were a few of them, and I didn't realize this until after I found out he was actually going to be voting against it. There were a few people that told the president they were going to vote for it simply so they would have a chance to see what was in it. And then, because that's what had me completely pissed off at Ted Cruz for a month, because I found out that he had voted to go ahead and support it for now. Well, what had happened is he got a chance to go downstairs, peel back the layers of the onion, and take a really deep, big, dark look at it, and he got to look at all the TISA documents that are tied into this thing, and he was like, oh, not only no, but hell no. So now all of a sudden the guy that was for it was against it, and he's taking all kinds of flack for it. When it comes out, at least from a couple of sources that I've talked to, that most likely what had happened is the only way that he could even agree to try to get a look at it was to tell people that he was going to vote for it. They were keeping it that far under lock and key that you had to basically swear that you were going to vote for it to even be able to find out what was in it. At least that's my understanding. Now, whether it's gotten that bad in D.C., I don't know. But I do know that the thing that pisses me off about D.C. is if you look at the Constitution, they are not required to be there year-round. They're only required to be there for a few weeks out of the year. So why, since these people are supposed to represent us, are we not getting them away from there as much as possible to make them face their constituency, to make them understand exactly how pissed off we are at them? But here's the other downside. And this is the part where our political system is completely dichotomic. Because here's the issue. The issue is, if you look at Congress's approval rating as a whole, it sucks. But if you talk to people about their particular congressmen and senators, they're the best thing since sliced bread. Where's the disconnect? How can your senators and your congressmen be awesome, but the body sucks?
That is true. That is true.
So yeah, lots of things that have been going on secretly while we've been fighting over flags and who gets to marry who and everything else. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the administration has recently been struck down by a court stating that they overstepped their authority with their executive actions on amnesty. Well, they've had us so distracted that they've been quietly basically doing de facto amnesty by making sure that every agency involved in immigration understands that they are not to enforce our immigration laws.
And as we were distracted as well, we saw that the clean air policies that he tried to implement were also struck down by the Supreme Court. So a lot of shit has been happening. There was a funny meme, actually, that was out. It was George Bush on a telephone. On the bottom picture is Obama on a telephone smiling. And then on the top one it says, so TPP, how'd you get it done? That's what George Bush is saying. And then on the Obama photo it says, you put a funny rainbow flag in front of their face and no one pays attention.
I saw a similar meme, but it was slightly different. Same picture, and at the top, Bush 43 grinning from ear to ear on a phone, and at the top it says, "I heard you got the TPP passed. How did you get the American people to go for that?" And Obama's sitting on his desk, feet propped up, leaning back, grinning from ear to ear. Got the phone right there. He says, "I didn't. They're too busy fighting over a flag."
I mean, it's true though. It's kind of scary. So we're gonna jump ships and we're gonna go to break in a couple of minutes. But on my last question on the TPP is like, is it? This might be a stupid question, but is it solidified? Like, is it done? Fight's over? Battle done? He's got the power. He's got the fast track authority. So is that it?
Well, I mean, the thing about it is it doesn't completely remove Congress from the equation. But what it does do is basically get it to the point where it's not the whole gotta have 60 votes, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. It's a simple up or down. So he's going to get to do the majority of the work. He'll be the one doing a lot of the negotiations. He's then going to go back to Congress, tell them what he's been able to do, and they get to vote whether they like it or not.
Well, God help us if they vote they like it.
Well,
I mean, I would be open to a trade a trade deal with these countries makes sense, but a trade deal needs to work for America. We're America. We're supposed to have the upper hand here, not the little bitch in the equation. We're getting bitched over by corporations who are going to be making gajillions of dollars more from this, and in the end, we, the people, the average Joe, gets just fucking screwed.
I think the word you're looking for is hosed.
Oh, yeah. We get fucking hosed. All right. We're going to go to break, and then when we come back, I have a clip to play. I have a discussion on, it's actually interesting, polygamy. I'm kind of curious where this goes with us. So I guess we'll talk about that first, then we'll end it with a video that I have. All right, but for now, we're going to go to break.
If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
The feeling most people get when they hear a Barack Obama speech, I felt this thrill going up my leg. I mean, I don't have that too often.
Steady.
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. Ricky Robinson, host of America Off the Rails, will tackle the important issues facing America today as he tries to keep America from coming off the track. Get ready to hear the truth every Monday through Friday starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, and on Saturdays at 12 p.m. Eastern and 11 Central here on K98Talk.com and the Spark Radio Network. While enjoying the 4th of July with family and friends, take K98 Talk with you, your constant companion on your mobile devices and the Internet. Stay connected and informed while enjoying a safe holiday. This has been a message from your friends at K98 Talk.
This is Misty, owner of Wax It Studio in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm here to talk to you about a skincare product called Theramedics. Theramedics has a wonderful line of products from anti-aging to hyperpigmentations all the way to acne. In fact, everyone at some point in our life is affected by acne. Acne can cause a great deal of embarrassment and anxiety, and in order to prevent and help other people, I have tapped into this wonderful product called Theramedics. Visit my website at www.prettyskindeep.com. Again, that's www.prettyskindeep.com.
All right, welcome back on this semi-cloudy. It's an alright day. July 4th. So, in this next, we're gonna have two more topics we're gonna talk about today, but it's kind of interesting. So, I don't know how many of people have seen this article, but a polygamous couple filed for their marriage license following the same-sex marriage ruling. So, my question here is, where does it stop? I'm not the person who's going to say, because of the same-sex marriage ruling, people are going to go marry a fucking monkey. No, I hate when people say, where does it stop? Now people are going to marry dolphins, shit like that. That's ridiculous. We're talking about consenting adults, people who are within their right mind, who believe that they want to tie the knot together. But, I guess it doesn't bother me, and that's marriage. But, you see, we just went from marriage being between a man and a woman to now it's anybody, basically, to consenting adults. That is marriage right now in this country. Even Mitch McConnell, okay, the chinless fuck he is, said it himself. This is now the law of the land. So, marriage is between two consenting adults as of right now. But when this polygamous couple went to go file their marriage license, the county clerk where they went was very confused and didn't know what to say. So I guess, where, what do you do? Is marriage, is this going to be the next big thing? I mean, I guess, in my opinion, that polygamy isn't as big as same-sex marriages, so I imagine that this will not be the next thing, but here's the headline. Salon writes, can't handle polygamists who want same marriage rights as gay community. So, that was the, Salon is the writers who broke the story. But I'll read a little bit of the article, and then we'll talk to Rick about this and see where this kind of goes. So it appears the writers over at Salon have an interesting definition of marriage equality. Gay marriage proponents and radical feminist Mary Elizabeth Williams showed her true colors on the issue today, claiming that fringe groups, like those who participate in polygamy, should not have access to new freedoms detailed in the recent SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, case which granted gay couples marriage recognition nationwide. Less than a week after, liberals flooded the airways and social media with rainbows and declarations of love wins. Liberal media outlets like Salon are already narrowing that message. Last week, the argument was that you have the right to marry whoever makes you happy. This week, it must fit the agenda. And if you're a conservative who doesn't fit that agenda, then you'll not only be denied the same access newly allowed to gays, you'll also be subject to harsh opinions like this from liberal activists. Now, obviously,
taste my rainbow, bitch.
That was perfect. Now, this article here takes clearly a conservative turn to it, and most polygamists of the Mormon Church do define as conservative Republicans. That's just the factual statistic. I've heard in one interview, I was watching a documentary on this, that there are few Democrat polygamists, but the large majority are Republicans. So I understand where this article goes when it takes a blast at liberals and the liberal media. But from my opinion, I don't give a shit who you want to marry. I don't give a shit if you want to marry 12 women or one woman. I don't give a shit. As long as you're not fucking a kid or a dolphin, and it's between consenting adults, then, you know what, by all means, go have fun and do what Dave said in the last show. And if you didn't watch our last show, you're not going to get that reference, so you better go watch that freaking show, and then you will laugh your ass off. But, Rick, I want to hear your opinion on this.
Okay, so it's, let's do this from a different perspective, and then we'll come back to what you're talking about. Because it's interesting that you keep mentioning consenting adults. There is a little-known movement at this point that has now picked up traction because of the recent, as you call them, SCOTUS. At this point, I call them scrotum. Difference of opinion there. But there's a little-known movement that's picked up, and no, I'm not talking about the polygamy thing. We'll come back to that in a second. There are now children between the ages of about 14 and 17 that are starting to sue for, basically, it's not even considered emancipation. They're actually starting to sue for equal rights. So it's interesting that you keep mentioning consenting adults, because I tell you, and it's something that I have said for a very, very long time, this was a slippery slope argument. Nobody wanted to listen to me at the time, but we're now already starting to see the effects, because now that we've opened the floodgates for one, eventually we're going to have to open the floodgates for all, and at some point we're going to have a bunch of children that have decided their parents don't know what the hell they're doing, and they should have the same rights as an adult. And if and when, now granted, we're probably looking at about another 100 years or so again, because look how long it took for gay rights to happen. But at some point down the road, somebody's probably going to win this argument, and then all these pedophiles that are now screaming, "It's not my fault, I'm born this way," can be able to have sex with kids because they'll have equal rights.
All right, well, I mean, that is a little different. I'm strictly talking about adults, and if any kid believes that they should have, equal rights, they're not in their sane mind. The human brain doesn't develop till around 18 to 22.
Actually, there are parts of the human mind that don't start working properly until 25. I honestly think we should change the legal definition of an adult. Because
I would agree with you.
The issue, and not to change topics, but the issue is there is a part of your brain that does not actually start functioning until sometime between the age of 25 and 26, and that is the part of your brain that helps you understand what consequences are. After raising several teenagers, I really think that we should maybe think about considering raising the age of adulthood. They're already on our insurance now until 26. Why can we not legally make them an adult until they're 26? Because at least that way, if they do stupid crap... Because here's the thing. If they do stupid crap between the ages of like 18 and 25, if they're still under my roof, I'm still responsible for it anyway. At least this way I can legally kill them.
That's... You know what? I applaud that. But to take this back to just the consenting adults, what is your opinion on this article about the polygamists? Do you think that we're going to see polygamy be included in this ruling, or how do you think? Are there enough polygamists to make this into a giant movement? Like, what are we going to see from this?
Okay, well, let's just look at this from a rational perspective, because while we're being inundated with it, according to the last census figures, the homosexual population was between 1% and 3% of our population. I'm pretty sure that if you really stop to look, Utah alone probably would make up a good portion of the polygamy movement. I mean, I know there are folks that are elsewhere because, I mean, come on, there's like shows all over reality TV now called Sister Wives and this, that, and the other. I just don't know where it's going to stop. But at the same time, this is the same argument that I have made for everything else. If we're going to have freedom for one, we have to have freedom for all. So, much like you, I don't care. As long as you're not hurting anyone, what you do behind whoever's door, I mean, I don't care if, I mean, because there's one dude on Sister Wives has like 8 wives and they all live in different houses, and he basically just goes from house to house to house every night. And then occasionally they get together in the big house and all the kids are there, and I'm like, oh my God, how are you? You cannot possibly be sane. Not with that many screaming children all at the same time. There's no freaking way you are sane. But if you are crazy enough to do the whole polygamy thing, where you're going to wind up having like a whole freaking gaggle of children and have to basically deal with the fact that you're going to have 8 women that are pissed off at you instead of 1, more power to you, brother, because it's hard enough for me to keep my one wife happy. I don't need more than 1. But, I mean, at this point, if we're going to have freedom for one, we have to have freedom for all. The whole reason that they stopped allowing the Mormon polygamy thing in the first place was because of the moral objections, which were the same things that were used for decades now to keep gay people from having the right to marry whomever they choose. So if one has that right, now the other has to have that right. It doesn't matter how small of a percentage they are. That's the same argument they've been making for forever, but now that there's another group that says, hey, my turn, yeah, fuck you, you're not normal. But
yeah, no, I mean it is. I just don't think this should be an issue anymore. I think, Bernie Sanders actually put it best, and I'm sorry to bring this back to Bernie Sanders as I always do, but he said, yes, gay marriage, abortion, these are very important to the people, but we need to focus on the economic issues, the actual issues that are going to be hurting America. These shouldn't be legal issues, I mean, they're just ridiculous.
I'm sorry, who said that again?
Bernie Sanders.
I'm sorry,
God.
who said it again?
The love of my life, the forbidden love.
I thought it was. Hey, it's not forbidden anymore. You can marry him if you want.
Oh, that's true. Bernie, if you ever hear this, will you marry me? Please respond one day. Love you, Bryce Robin.
Elizabeth's probably a little sad today, sir.
Probably. Well, if she'd run for president, maybe. But she's not. All right, so...
Okay, I guess I shouldn't make fun of you on your own show, so...
No, it's fine. It is fine. I don't mind it, because at the end of the day, I love Elizabeth Warren, and I love Bernie Sanders, and there should just be a giant, orgy fest with their liberalness.
So basically what you're saying is when this show's over, you're going to do what Dave talked about in the last show?
Yeah. Yeah, we should just keep referencing that. So that's the second reference to what Dave said in the last show. It encourages people to go watch the last show. I really recommend everyone should. You will have a different look on Dave. Okay, but we're going to jump ships a little bit here. So for the last couple minutes of the show, I'm going to talk, for the last good portion of the show, and then I'm going to play a funny video just to kind of get us in the mood for July 4th. So, as everybody here might know from the last show, if you have not watched it, I discussed how I'm doing an internship in Harlem with State Senator Bill Perkins. And I've actually been a little bit more than an intern. It's kind of fun. I've been working on his legislative index for next year, and I've been writing a pretty interesting bill that may or may not be presented to the Senate floor in New York. So, I mean, I'm not just fetching coffee. I actually haven't fetched coffee once. So it's actually pretty cool. But anyways, I was on my commute home, and I was taking the subway, and this guy comes on the train. He's in his 50s, 60s, maybe mid-50s. Comes on, he's this bigger man. He sits down. He looks like a smart, well-educated, well-dressed guy. And he tells my friend to, if he asks him if he could scoot over a little bit, and he says to, there's a pretty girl sitting next to my friend. And he goes, "Can you scoot over? Look, I'm a matchmaker. I made you two." He's like, "Maybe I started something here." And then my other friend sitting across the way looks at my friend kind of what the hell is this guy saying? And the man who came onto the subway goes, "Oh, I get it. You two are a thing." And then he starts joking around. It's kind of weird, but it's all right. And then he goes on and says, "Boy, didn't the Supreme Court really screw us over with this decision?" And he kept talking. And normally people don't just start a conversation and say how they hate gay marriage. But then he kept going, and he kept saying about, clearly you can see where I align. And I didn't say anything. I just kind of kept it down. I saw people looking at him funny. But then he kept going. And he eventually said, something along the lines of, "I don't see why we can't live in a society where we can just stick to the rules and embrace the rules." And that's when I had enough. And I spoke up and I said, or, we could just embrace everybody's differences and just, embrace equality and our love for each other. And I was just sick of it. And he was like, "Oh, you're one of those dumb liberals." And I said, "No, I am not a dumb liberal. You are just a dumb person." And everyone started to look. And I went on and just kept saying, it's disgusting that, you have to continue this issue, which it shouldn't be an issue, that two people love each other very much, want to get married. And it's amazing that, you don't bitch and moan about in Las Vegas you can get married in 2 seconds, but someone who loves somebody for, over a decade with an adopted child can't get married so they can enjoy the same rights and economic benefits as you. And then he went on to say, this young generation is so stupid. What do you learn in school? And I said math, science, and history, but that's not the point of what I learned in school. The point is that you were entirely discriminating against a group of people randomly on a subway, and it's kind of uncomfortable. And then I went on to go a little bit further. I said something along the lines of, and regardless of what I learned in school, my generation is not stupid. Your generation is the one that has destroyed this planet and has led to all the bad legislation that is going to destroy my generation. But then in the end, I walked off and I said, and yes, I am a liberal, and you know what? Liberals have done some of the greatest things for this country. And then I kind of just thought about this video that I'm about to play, and I mentioned, Abraham Lincoln was a liberal when he emancipated slaves, and, LBJ was a liberal when he gave, passed the Civil Rights Act, and there were liberals who passed the Social Security Act, and there were liberals who passed all these different acts. Climate change, done none of them by Richard Nixon. And this video just came to mind. So I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to talk about how I left that subway ride. And then I'm going to have a funny video to play. So here, just listen to this video.
Being liberal, are you? I know you like to use that word liberal as if it were a crime. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have used that word. I know Democrats think liberal is a bad word. So bad you had to change it, didn't you? What do you call yourselves now? Progressives? Is that it? It's true. Republicans have tried to turn liberal into a bad word. Well, liberals ended slavery in this country. A Republican president ended slavery. Yes, a liberal Republican, Senator. What happened to them? They got run out of your party. What did liberals do that was so offensive to the Liberal Party? I'll tell you what they did. Liberals got women the right to vote. Liberals got African Americans the right to vote. Liberals created Social Security and lifted millions of elderly people out of poverty. Liberals ended segregation. Liberals passed the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act. Liberals created Medicare. Liberals passed the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act. What did conservatives do? They opposed every single one of those things. Every one. So when you try to hurl that label at my feet, liberal, as if it was something to be ashamed of, something dirty, something to run away from, it won't work, Senator, because I will pick up that label and I will wear it as a badge of honor.
So Rick is probably literally shitting himself and looking for the nearest gun to blow out his ears. But that's just how I felt, so I thought that'd be a little funny to share that clip. But I ended up walking out of the subway saying, and you know what? I'm going to fly my rainbow flag and embrace equality. And everyone started to clap, and I left. But I just don't like somebody else coming onto a subway or going anywhere in public, spouting off their views that are just obnoxious. Like, don't be a douche, Anyways, Rick, how do you feel about it?
Said the guy that was basically the douche in reverse.
Yeah, I know. I was the douche in reverse, but I was the New York City publicly accepted douche in reverse, and I didn't start it.
So just to be clear, so the fact that the crowd liked what you said and disliked what he said, that makes it okay?
Okay, but the fact that I didn't start it, he started it. It was in retaliation. I need an adult's point of view on this one.
I mean, I don't know, because here's my problem with all of it. Every last little bit of this right now that's going on in this country, we are so polarized and we're not paying attention to what honestly truly matters. I mean, yes, we're celebrating, a lot of us, and I happen to be one of them because I have family members that are gay. I'm not going to mention who they are because they're comfortable in who they are and nobody needs to know who they are. But one of the things that nobody really understands is, again, I ran a security agency for 12 years. I was in the gay community helping, protecting for 12 years. So, no, I do not personally condone what it is that they do, but I don't want to stop them from being able to do it either. This is where the problem is. I'm going to read something that I actually posted to Twitter earlier because it actually completely fits the entire problem that I see in this country. And it's something that Dave actually kind of brought up earlier, which is the whole freedom for me but not for thee mentality. So, because that is the biggest thing that we have. And again, it is evident because even now, the same people that just fought for freedom to be able to marry whom they choose are looking at another group of people saying, no, fuck you, you're not normal, that can't happen. So this is what freedom means to me, if I can ever actually get it open. Freedom means gays can marry, but churches don't have to perform the service if it offends them. Confederate flags are just rectangles. Penises on cakes are not mandatory. Words you don't like can be said and don't excuse violence. People can mock and draw your God should they choose. Our history is real, and freedom is for everyone, not just for you. So deal with it. That's my problem, is everybody wants to say, I'm free, but nobody wants to give anybody else the same freedom. I dealt with that all over my Facebook page all day yesterday, because I finally told the guy, no, I do not personally support the Confederate flag. But it doesn't mean to me what it means to you. It does not offend me. It doesn't get an emotional reaction out of me at all, because it is a piece of cloth. So someone else waving it, I don't give a damn. That's their right. But the problem is, everybody wants to tout their rights while taking rights away from everybody else. And in essence, that's the problem that goes on everywhere, because you have liberals that want rights for certain people, but not other people. You've got conservatives that want rights for certain people, but not other people. And it's the same damn argument from different sides, and it's all a bunch of crap.
Amen, brother. I agree. I 100% agreed with just about everything you just said there.
Except for
No, I liked what you just said. I really do.
Okay, well, I'm going to take my bow and give you your show back.
No. That, it's true. It really is true. Look, if you're... The interesting thing about gay marriage is that there are people who genuinely... They don't really condone it. They don't care what you do. You can get married, whatever. But if they don't want to perform your wedding, maybe that's all right. And if you don't feel comfortable making a fucking penis cake, or if you don't feel comfortable flying a Confederate flag, you shouldn't have to. But if you want to, fine. And, I mean, I guess, look, we need rules, right? We call it a free market, our economy, but it's not free. It's just we have limited rules on it. So... I guess in essence, nothing is necessarily free, but the more freedoms we have in our society, that is what our founding fathers envisioned, and that is what they fought for on this very day, was to be free, and to not pay taxes to the British Crown, to not have to use their banking system, to not have to, etc. There were so many reasons why our founding fathers decided they wanted a new country for themselves. And whether you believe in some weird conspiracy theory or you believe in the things that I just said, I do think that this country is taking a dive against its freedom. So I do want to read one funny quote. So the United States citizens celebrating their freedom is like an 80-year-old prostitute celebrating her virginity. It is gone. Okay, that is not true. But what I must say is that we are on a curve where we call it America. We have weird clothing that has our flag on it. Our country is being marketed these days as a joke. And we're marketed to the world as this military, industrially, grit and racist and fat. And we're a joke to the rest of the world, is at least what it seems. America, at one point or another, was the shining city on the hill, as Ronald Reagan once described it. It wasn't a shining city when he actually described it, but it was a shining city at one point or another. It wasn't a shining city for everybody, the gays and the blacks, but economically and in regard to the rest of the world, there was no question about it. And even though we discriminated against many groups of people, millions of people still fucking flocked to this country because it was by far the greatest country in the entire world. Today, we are marketed as a joke. We have citizens who don't really appreciate the fact that this country has done so much. although this country has its shits, and there are a lot of shits in this country. For example, you always hear me and Rick argue about them. The Confederate flag, maybe, the Federal Reserve, that we use GMOs, that there are people who don't vaccinate their kids, that we are destroying the planet. Yes, okay, whatever. You can find many shits in this country. Or the fact that we are totally hypocritical about, rights for some and rights for others. But the sheer fact that we have a constitution that has lasted this long, that we embrace or are supposed to embrace a Bill of Rights, our country is very unique. And I really feel that our younger generation, and many people just in general, have really lost touch with what it means to be an American. And so today, on our Independence Day, I encourage you, all of our listeners, to really find out what it means to be an American and maybe embrace what the Founding Fathers set up for you. How can you make this country a better place? John F. Kennedy once said, don't ask how, or to paraphrase him, don't ask how America can serve you, ask how you can serve your country. It is important to embrace the freedoms, the ability that this country gives us. On a closing note, hearing the Tuskegee Airmen once speak last year really opened my eyes, I would say. That was a really key part of me finding out what it means to be an American. So someone asked, one of the questions was, why would you fight for a country that doesn't fight for you? Being that they're black, and during the time of World War II, obviously in the South and a large part of the country, blacks were discriminated, there was much more racism, segregation, and they said something that was just amazing, and I wish it was on film because it would have gone viral. One of them stood up and said, I fought for this country not because what it was, but because what it could be. That is amazing. And that is why I love America. And I think that's why a lot of people love America, because you have the possibility to change. So I'm going to close it out with this funny fail video that one of my friends sent to me online. It's Americans who don't know why we celebrate July 4th. Hopefully you're not like this, and hopefully you know why. But have a happy July 4th, everybody. Learn what it means to be an American, and love America. Hang on.
Independence Day?
Specifically,
I don't know. I'm so bad at this. Say Independence Day. Say when we won our independence.
From?
Those countries. Do you have this on camera too?
Name one of the founding fathers of America.
I know how they do this.
You don't know? What year did we declare independence from Britain?
1773? 73? I don't know. I have no idea.
Getting people's thoughts on what country we broke away from when we declared independence back in 1776. Didn't know. America celebrates the 4th of July.
Is it Independence Day when you got rid of Mother England, right?
Yes. We have foreigners that know why we.
Well,
foreigners know why we celebrate it more than Americans.
Everybody loves to get rid of their, the colonizers. So it's always good.
Incredible.
It's always good.
Thanks for knowing that. That's incredible, man. Have a good vacation. See ya. Thanks for watching.
That makes me sad.
Yes, very. Well, God bless this country, and have a wonderful Independence Day, everybody. That's all.
Welcome to Opinion Nation.
What makes us Americans is our shared commitment to an ideal that all of us are created equal.
I, too, am America.
Now here.
All right, folks. Well, that's going to conclude the Bryce Robbins Show. Now, as we normally do here on 4th of July, I've got a couple of things that I'm going to leave running. So I hope you do stay tuned. The first thing we're going to load up, of course, is the Declaration of Independence. After that, we have the story of the story behind the Star-Spangled Banner and what actually inspired what is now considered our national anthem. So I do hope you stay tuned for both of those. Thanks for tuning in today. I do hope everybody enjoys the rest of the 4th of July. We'll still have the Ann and Frank show on later. It will be a replay. Also, Voices of Global Freedom Radio, of course, I do believe this weekend will be a replay as well. But don't forget, here in just a little bit, you can head over to Red State Radio for those of you that are of the conservative mind, and most of you listening right now probably aren't, so you're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But that's okay. We bring everybody here, and we let you guys make up your mind as to who you want to listen to and which side of the argument you want to fall on. So I do hope everybody has a great, safe, happy 4th of July. And no, our freedoms are not gone yet, but we're getting really damn close. You guys have a good day.
In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states For that purpose, obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial, from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince, whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant, is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must, therefore, acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do, and for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the National Anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we've never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story. Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict with the mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict and the protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these prisoners. They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore. And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men. And he said, men, I've got news for you tonight. You're free. He said, tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies. He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean? He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry? He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. And he said, that's the entire British war fleet. He said, all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said, the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says, it's predominantly not a military fort. He said, don't worry about it. They said, we've left them a way out. And he said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately. And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen. And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds. The ships got closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, tell us where the flag is. What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling, every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb, and Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up. It's not down. The admiral came and he said, your people are insane. He said, what's the matter with them? He said, don't they understand this is an impossible situation? Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees. The admiral said, we have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down. He said, we don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that. But he said, now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point. Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful. All that he could hear was the men down below praying. The prayer, God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it. Sunrise came. He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened. And what he'd found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when it had fallen, but men, fathers, who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground, although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place. Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? or the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet fly and wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The debt was demanded. The price, it was paid.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets spread clear, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, folks, we're about to change gears. I've got one last thing I want to play for you, then we're going to wrap up the broadcast for the morning. Now, the reason I played that, and the reason I wanted anybody who's listening right now and anybody who will be listening in the podcast versions of the shows later, because this will be something that will be airing repeatedly throughout the day now that it's been done and about to be completed. The next time you have someone that looks at you like you're crazy when you start saying things about how the flag shouldn't touch the ground, let them watch this and listen to those words. There are people that don't understand that that was a tradition that was started for a very specific reason. If that flag had fallen, if that flag had touched the ground, the world would be a much different place right now. And I know that a lot of us are feeling like we've kind of been nothing but delaying the inevitable for the last couple hundred years, but we're still not going down without a fight. And today's the day that we need to remember that. So I'm going to close out this last part of the broadcast right here live with you today by playing something that I hope you'll all enjoy. And it's Red Skelton talking about the changes to the Pledge of Allegiance and why those changes have occurred. Until we talk again, folks, I am Rick Robinson, programming director here at K98Talk.com, K98Talk.org, and managing partner of the Spark Radio Network. Until we meet again, happy 4th of July, and don't forget, go over and give Red State a hearty hello. Let them know that Rick sent you. Let's show them they made a good choice. I'll be back with you Monday right here live. And don't forget, you can also check out yesterday's show tomorrow right there on Red State Radio.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. And I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?